The Tale of the Void Emperor. Chapter 6. Shock, Joy and Sadness. Next chapter. Chapter 6. Shock, Joy and Sadness. Mike kept his eyes closed for 10 minutes before he opened them, but this time there was no silver hue in his eyes. Laforge appeared beside Mike and spoke with a smile. "Congratulations, lad, you just hit a jackpot." Quote. Mike had no idea what happened. What happened? How did I hit a jackpot? Quote. Looks like Mike had no idea about his own feat and what happened in the past 15 minutes. "Mr. Laforge, do you know which element Mike awakened?" "I don't know what silver color represent." I could not hold back as I asked Laforge. Hearing them talk, Mike was first confused and then shocked. "Wait, you are saying I awakened affinity for an element? You are not pulling my leg right." Quote. Laforge grinned and said, "Of course we are not pulling your legs. You indeed awakened affinity for an element, and the element you awakened is so rare that not a single person of the said element can be found in Thunderfire Valley." Quote. "Hurry up and tell us what that goddamn element is." Single quote. Laforge laughed and said to Mike, ignoring everyone's stares, "Come on, Mike, I'll drop you to the headquarters of Thunderfire Valley." Quote. After that, he just grabbed Mike's shoulder and flew out of the palace through the window in the room. "We can see that you are in a hurry from your expression, but at least use the door," was what everyone participant was thinking. I was also tongue-tied by the swiftness of Laforge. He didn't even tell us what that silver color element was, damn. But that aside, I am really happy for Mike. Maybe I can also awaken an element like that if I go through a few more hells like lava pool and thunder platform. I couldn't help but fantasize about awakening an element just like Mike, ha ha ha. One of the participants asked, "Anyone know what that silver color represent?" Quote. "I've never heard of an element with silver color." Quote. "Me too, I've read records of Mayrin in our tower, but there was no mention of the silver color element." Quote. "But that Laforge guy certainly knew about that element." Participants started to talk with each other while I just stood where I was. Maybe they didn't bother asking me cause I was smaller than them, tisk, whatever. 10 minutes passed by this as we heard someone's footsteps behind us, where the door to the room was. Everyone turned back and thought seeing the person, "So you came back through the door this time, huh?" Single quote. "Alright, you 5 passed the second round and are now officially the disciples of Thunderfire Valley. But we still need to conduct the third round to assess you, which then will decide where you will be sent to work and how much resources you will get." Quote. Seeing everyone nodding, Laforge led everyone out of the room and entered the door that was in the north of the palace hall, the one which we saw right after entering the palace. I badly wanted to ask things about Mike, but I kept my patience in check and decided to finish the third round before asking. Soon, we entered the third door, but this time there was nothing special in it. This room led us out of the palace because there was a waterfall, a pond, and greenery. After everyone entered, Laforge spoke. "This round is even more simple than previous ones. All you have to do is just to sit inside that pond while closing your eyes. No time limit, you can come out when you can't stay in it anymore, just that the longer you stay in the pond, the more rewards you will get, the better working location and better resources." Quote. Hearing the details, everyone arrived at the pond and sat down in it. The pond's water level only reached our neck even after we sat down. Seeing everyone sitting down inside the pond, Laforge spoke. "Once again, you can come out if you can't bear to stay anymore, and I will also drag you out if you are close to death." Quote. Hearing the last part, sweat started to form on the participants' face as they thought, "Close to death. You're saying we have a chance of dying in this normal-looking pond?" Single quote. I was also surprised hearing that part because in the previous round, which contains a dangerous-looking lava pool and lightning platform, Laforge clearly said that there is no chance of dying in them, but we have a chance of dying in this normal-looking pond. Anyway, I closed my eyes after that. After a few minutes, I was thinking about random things when I realized that the water was getting cold, but it didn't bother me. Thunderfire Valley headquarters. Currently, Mike was sitting alone in a very grand hall, which had inscribed patterns all over the hall's interior with a mixture of red, blue, and gold color designs. Everyone who looked at him could say that he was a bundle of nervousness and excitement. Suddenly winds ruffled and a man in his 60s appeared, who wore a golden robe in which red and blue snake danced around. His face had a faint smile, as his bearing oozed sharpness and ferocity despite his aged appearance. He appeared in front of Mike and spoke, "Little guy, don't be nervous, your life is going to change as fate has smiled upon you." Quote. Mike was shocked seeing someone appear in front of him and also scared as this person's aura was too powerful. My name is Ethan, no my mistake, my name is Mike. Mike was sweating as he stuttered and screwed up while speaking. The man chuckled and spoke, "Don't be nervous little guy, my name is Taifang and I am going to be your master. I'm sure you have many questions but hear me out first." Quote. First thing is about your new life, you are going to be the holy son of Thunder Fire Valley and will also inherit my position as Valley Master in the future. Quote. Mike was dumbfounded, it's like a bomb exploded in his head as his chin hit the ground. Valley Master Taifang continued, second thing is that the element you awakened is none other than extremely rare space element, at least in my years of life experience, I have never seen a person with this element, but we have records that space element excludes faint silver lights in a person's eyes. I especially went to borrow this one and only space elemental fish from Pavilion Master of the Sky Lark Pavilion. Speaking up to here, Valley Master grabbed the shoulder of Mike as both of them flew out of the big palace and appeared towards a pond. He waved his hand and a silver-colored fish appeared which he threw into the pond. Now go, stand inside the pond. Quote. Mike nodded as he walked towards the pond. Just as he stepped his feet into the pond, the silver fish came running towards him and started glowing. It glowed for 30 seconds before it stopped. Seeing the result, Valley Master appeared excited despite his age, it almost reached high grade, ha ha ha. Quote. Mike then came out as Valley Master retrieved the fish. Valley Master, is it possible to enhance the affinity grade of an element? Mike asked. Valley Master had this grin on his face as he nodded, it is indeed possible to increase the affinity grade of the element. Quote. I see, by the way, Valley Master. Seeing Mike's hesitance, Valley Master said, what do you want? You can state your wishes, after all, we will be an official master and disciple after the ceremony tomorrow. Quote. I have a friend who is like my brother, he doesn't have an elemental affinity, but I heard that an affinity pill can awaken an affinity inside a person. Mike's words were cut short by Valley Master Taifang who spoke. So you want to ask for an affinity pill for your friend? Quote. Seeing Mike nodding his head, Valley Master sighed, it's not that I don't want to give you an affinity pill but we simply can't produce it anymore. The sources of thunder and fire has weakened a lot since the previous Valley Master used them to create a lot of pills 300 years ago, thus the source weakened, and now we need to wait for 200 years more before creating another batch of affinity pills. I see. Mike was depressed as he very much wanted to help Ethan. Seeing his expression, Valley Master spoke, I know he is your best friend, but you and he are now people of different worlds. Normal elemental warriors only have a lifespan of 100 to 150 years while elemental sorcerers can live longer as they continue to become stronger. Of course not all elemental warriors can open their psychic realm so they may only live for 100 years at most. Quote. Hearing this truth, Mike was even more saddened as he murmured, he works way harder than me, and he deserves to get an elemental affinity more than me. Quote. Valley Master shook his head, such is fate Mike, you can only accept it. Quote. Meanwhile, the pond was entirely frozen along with participants who were sitting inside it. Next chapter. The Tale of the Void Emperor. Chapter 7. Psychic Energy. Mountain Palaces. Next chapter. Chapter 7. Psychic Energy. Mountain Palaces. Laforge stood beside the pond as he looked at the participants. Suddenly he waved his hands and pulled a participant out of the pond. After coming out, the participant was unfrozen and soon regained his consciousness. What happened? Quote. Laforge looked at him and said with a plain face, your heart was about to stop beating, so I pulled you out, that's all. Quote. The participant opened his mouth, but closed it after a few seconds and did not say anything but turned his attention towards other frozen participants. Another minute passed before Laforge took out 2 more participants. Now only Ethan and another participant were left inside the pond. After 30 seconds, he pulled out the other participant. Now the only one left in the pond was Ethan. Laforge thought about the previous round performance of Ethan as he thought, this lad got terrifying willpower, he will most certainly become an elemental sorcerer if he doesn't lose his fighting spirit after a decade or two. Single quote. Ethan's thinking was currently slowed to the extreme, he could not think of anything now, and he only had one wish right now, and that was to sleep. But he knows that if he falls asleep, then it would be over, and so, he kept trying to not fall asleep even when his brain's dexterity was almost zero right now. Outside, Laforge had a weird expression on his face as he thought, what kind of beast are you? Hurry up and give in so that I can pull you out. Single quote. 5 minutes later, one of the participants raised his hand and spoke as he saw Laforge glancing at him, he is not dead, right? He spoke while pointing at the frozen Ethan. Laforge sneered and said, don't lump trash like you and him together, I have a feeling that this kid has a beast hidden within him, it's just a matter of time when it awakens, his body and brain are in strange synergy right now, he will not die even if he stays here for days, but it will also not benefit him now that he has already adapted to this state, guess the 3rd round is also over now. Quote. Finishing speaking, he waved his hand and pulled out frozen Ethan from the pond. After coming out, Ethan soon snapped out of his strange state as his brain regained its normal functions. Seeing this, Laforge spoke, now that 3rd round is over, I'll bring you all to the place where you'll be staying and working. Quote. Saying this, Laforge took out a chariot from thin air, which dumbfounded everyone. After sitting in the front, he looked at all participants and said, what are you all daydreaming for? Hurry up if you want to enter the Thunderfire Valley. Quote. Everyone then snapped out of their thoughts and hopped into the chariot, which had enough space to hold 10 people at back and 2 people at the front. Seeing that everyone got into the chariot, Laforge pressed his hand against a square slate that was in front of him, which prompted the chariot to float and move forward in the air. While moving, Ethan asked, can elemental warriors fly? Quote. Laforge looked at him and said with a faint smile, elemental warriors, cannot fly. Quote. Everyone showed a disappointed expression, but then came. But, here we go again. Everyone wanted to show their middle fingers at Laforge, but they restrained themselves as they wouldn't want to be thrown out from the chariot by this guy. But it's not impossible to achieve a power to fly as an elemental warrior, because the things you saw me doing, like flying in the sky, pulling you out from the pond, etc., is not related to elemental energies, but another power called psychic energy. When an elemental sorcerer wants to become an elemental mage, they first have to unlock the psychic realm and produce psychic energy. This energy is crucial if one wants to practice further on the path of elemental sorcerer. Quote. Seeing the expression on everyone's faces, the corner of Laforge's mouth turned upward as he continues, elemental warriors can similarly unlock the psychic realm, and it's even easier than gaining an affinity of an element while practicing your resolve, and will just need to be sufficiently powerful, as psychic energy is related to our brain. Quote. Everyone revealed longing expression hearing what Laforge said and swore to never give up on the path of elemental warriors. Well, time will tell if their resolve is sufficient or not. After flying for about 10 more minutes, they arrived on a mountain range. Each mountain on this range was more than twice the size of Outer Thunderfire Palace where the examination was conducted. And there were so many palaces and buildings on this whole mountain range. Ethan was gobsmacked by this sight as he thought, damn, each mountain on this range is either the same size as Mount Everest or bigger. Single quote. Note. If you want to imagine how big they are, then you can look up Mount Everest, which is equivalent to the size of 20 Empire State Buildings stacked on top of each other, and the wideness is even more as it's the whole mountain range. Closing parenthesis. Laforge spoke as they landed on one of the mountains on the left side of the mountain range. This whole mountain range is Inner Thunderfire Valley. Each of these mountains have palaces built upon them after adjusting their peaks, so they are called mountain palaces. Quote. Ethan wanted to inquire about Mike, so he raised his hand and spoke after getting a signal from Laforge, is Mike here? When can I meet him? Quote. Laforge's gaze turned strange as he answered, Mike is not here, he is at core part of Thunder Fire Valley, which is even deeper. The headquarter of Thunder Fire Valley is also located there. Pausing here, his gaze showed pity as he looked at Ethan and said, Your friend Mike's situation is very special, you and he are people of different worlds now, it will be very difficult for you to meet with him in the future. I won't say anything anymore, you will find out everything tomorrow. Quote. After that, he led everyone inside the palace. This palace was bigger than Outer Thunder Fire Valley Palace. There were a lot of people going in and out of pathways and doors, the pathway leading to another side of the mountain, where other buildings were situated. Laforge led everyone on a pathway as they arrived at a place where a lot of houses were built. The environment was very good with greenery everywhere and a small river that went downstream. One house per person. After picking your house, write your name on that tag outside. There is a common knowledge book on the table inside your house. Read it carefully before sleeping. The food will arrive after an hour. Meanwhile, you can change your attire and wash your clothes at the river. Quote. Everyone nodded as Laforge continued with a serious expression. Tomorrow at 8 a.m., I want everyone to be standing here. If your supervisor sees someone absent, then that person will be directly kicked out of the Thunder Fire Valley, and your working place has already determined according to your performance, so I will not allow any complaints, understood? Quote. Yes. Everyone shouted in response. Laforge nodded with satisfaction as he said, Good, now if you want to eat better food, then you can either hunt monsters or go to the cafeteria, which you will be able to find after asking someone here. Every mountain is connected in this mountain range, so you can go to another mountain through the road on this mountain, no need to descend this mountain in order to go to another mountain. Alright, farewell, I will not be coming after today, I wish you all become elemental sorcerers in your life. Saying this, he flew up. But before flying away, he looked back as if he remembered something and threw a wooden plate towards Ethan while speaking. Tomorrow after you come back from work, show this wooden plate at the desk in this mountain palace if you want to meet Mike. After that, Laforge flew away. All participants then scattered and went to choose their house, though there were only 8 houses and each one looked exactly the same. Ethan entered 8th house, which was also one that was near the river, and went inside after writing his name on the tag. The house was not that big, 1 floor, 1 room, 1 small hall, 1 table in the hall and a cupboard in the room. After putting his bag on the bed in the room, he picked up the book that was on the table. Stages of Elemental Sorcerers, from Stage 1 to Stage 5. Stage 1. Elemental Guider. In this stage, the Elemental Sorcerer can only guide elemental energies into their body to form the Elemental Sea. Each element needs its own unique Elemental Sea. 2 elements can't coexist in one Elemental Sea. After one successfully forms an Elemental Sea, they enter the second stage. Dash 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 dash. Stage 2. Elemental Apprentice. In this stage, practitioners learn how to proficiently borrow and control the energy inside their Elemental Sea. When they can successfully cast the lowest tier ability of their respective element like Fireball, Earth Shards, Water Gun, etc., they are considered to have solidified their status as Elemental Apprentice. Dash 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 dash. Stage 3. Elemental Journeyman. In this stage, practitioners have to expand their Elemental Sea to increase their reservoir of elemental energy, and it generally takes a long time to do so. They can be considered to have solidified their status as Elemental Journeyman if they can cast high-level abilities that do not require complex control like Fire Rain, Water Cannon, Thunderbolts, Earth Wall, etc. Dash 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 dash. Stage 4. Elemental Master. In this stage, practitioners have to hone their control over a big reservoir of elemental energy in the elemental sea to cast complex and high-level abilities like Fire Wings, Healing Rain, Water Mirage, Earth Maze. In short, when they can fully control their elemental energies, then they are considered elemental master. Another example would be, a peak journeyman can cast 5 fireballs speedily and attack, but an elemental master can cast 15 fireballs even faster and attack. But here comes the hard part, stage 5. Dash 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 dash. Stage 5. Elemental Mage. To reach this stage, Elemental Masters needs to unlock the psychic realm which produces psychic energy. After that, they have to use this psychic energy to refine the elemental energy inside their elemental sea, which will make the respective energy inside their body more powerful. For example, an elemental master and an elemental mage consume the same amount of fire energy to cast a fireball into a pond, and the effect they would have on the pond would be significantly different. Elemental Master's fire will evaporate some water and make sizzling sounds for some time, but Elemental Mage's fireball can evaporate the entire pond. Elemental Mages can start using elemental arts which needs refined energy and psychic energy. You can say that the Elemental Master's fire energy is level 1 and the Elemental Mage's fire energy is level 2, one is a paper chariot while the other is a metal chariot. Dash 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 dash. Next chapter. The Tale of the Void Emperor. Chapter 8. A Meeting of Two Friends. Next chapter. Chapter 8. A Meeting of Two Friends. Ethan then turns to the next page, which had information about elemental warriors. Stages of elemental warriors, from stage 1 to stage 8. Elemental warrior stage 1. When one can resist the ability power of elemental apprentice with their body and not die after 2 attacks are considered to be on elemental warrior stage 1. Elemental warrior stage 2. When one can completely ignore the ability power of elemental apprentice with their body and hit back the elemental apprentice are considered to be on elemental warrior stage 2. Elemental warrior stage 3. When one can resist the ability power of elemental journeyman with their body and not die after 2 attacks are considered to be on the elemental warrior stage 3. Elemental warrior stage 4. When one can completely ignore the ability power of elemental journeyman with their body and hit back the elemental journeyman are considered to be on elemental warrior stage 4. The list goes on like this until it stops at elemental warrior stage 8. Elemental warrior stage 8. To reach elemental warrior stage 8, one needs to unlock the psychic realm and produce psychic energy. By using this psychic energy in combination with their powerful refined bodies, they can fight back against elemental mages. There was some other information in the next few pages regarding rules and regulations of Inner Thunder Fire Valley. After reading everything, Ethan laid on his bed while thinking, so elemental warriors also need to unlock the psychic realm if they want to continue their path. Soon he fell asleep while thinking about things, completely forgetting to wash clothes and arrange things. After all the ordeals the participants went through today, it's reasonable that they would be exhausted even though it's just 4 p.m. After who knows how long, Ethan opened his eyes. Shit, I fell asleep accidentally. Swearing, Ethan dashed out of his room and looked at the clock in the hall. Heaving a sigh of relief, Ethan thought, so it's just 3 a.m., now that I woke, it's time to do exercise and arrange things. Single quote. At 6 a.m., Ethan finished doing exercise. At 7 a.m., Ethan arranged things, washed his clothes, and took a bath. And at 7:45 he was already standing outside, waiting for the supervisor to arrive. Other people came out of their house one by one and everyone was standing outside when before 8 a.m. Soon, we saw 2 people arriving in our direction. Both were in their 40s, but they had this powerful aura around them, and looked robust. After arriving, they started sizing up Ethan and others. They did this for 1 minute before one of them spoke. "You kid, stay here, others follow me." Everyone left except Ethan and another man in his 40s. He smiled at Ethan and spoke, "My name is Ginza Tafa. You can call me Uncle Tafa. You will not be going with them because your workplace is different than theirs. Follow me, I'll show you the place." Quote. Both of them then started walking. Ethan just followed the man as he didn't know any paths here. They walked a fairly long distance, took many paths, and even descended the mountain at a point before finally arriving at a gloomy place, gloomy because there were dark clouds in the sky. After arriving here, they entered a cave door that led to another mountain. After walking inside the darkness for a few minutes, Ethan started to hear some sounds. Asterisk clunk asterisk. Asterisk clunk asterisk. Asterisk clunk asterisk. An area with gleam crystals appeared which illuminated the surroundings, where people were mining black-colored crystals. Arriving here, Ginza Tafa said to Ethan, "These black crystals have very mystical uses. If people stay near them for a long time, their muscles and organs will be strengthened gradually. Another use of them is that these crystals can be used to increase the durability of equipments." Quote. He then picked up a pickaxe which had a black crystal embedded on it. "This pickaxe is more effective when used to mine the crystals here." Saying this, he handed over the pickaxe to Ethan and said, "Go and start mining. You have mined daily for 7 hours, from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. Afterward you can train at training zones of elemental warriors." Quote. Ethan nodded and started to mine at a relatively distant spot where the number of black crystals was more. Seeing this, Tafa nodded and went back. Dot dot dot. Dot dot dot. Ethan returned to his home after working for 7 hours, and after taking a good bath, he directly went to the main desk in the mountain palace with the wooden plate that was given to him by Laforge. Arriving at the desk, where a woman in her 40s was sitting, he handed over the wooden plate. Looking at the wooden plate and then looking at me, she took out a paper with patterns inscribed on it, and after a second, it started to burn and turned into ash. "Wait for a few minutes, Laforge will arrive here soon," the woman said to Ethan. Ethan simply nodded and stood aside waiting for Laforge. After 10 minutes, Laforge could be seen walking towards Ash from the entrance of the mountain palace. Laforge looked like he was just walking, but his every step crossed more than 2 meters of distances, and he arrived in front of Ethan in just a few seconds. "Yo kiddo, come on, let's go meet your friend Mike." Saying this, he directly grabbed Ethan's shoulder and sped up as both of them flew outside of the palace. A voice laced with anger spread outside, "Lafurgee, flying is not allowed in Mountain Palace." Laforge just chuckled as he said to Ethan, who was looking at him, "Don't look at me like that, I'll pay the penalty later, but we have to hurry right now." Quote. Both of them flew deeper into the canyon and arrived at the region where there were a lot of thunder clouds and volcanoes in which lava was flowing down freely. Looking at Ethan's amazed expression, Laforge spoke, "These volcanoes and clouds are not naturally made but arranged by elemental archmages." Quote. Ethan's expression turned even more amazed as confident words without basis in it flowed out of his mouth involuntarily. "I will definitely be able to do things like this in the future, it's just a matter of time." Quote. Laforge laughed out hearing this and said, "Didn't know you had this much confidence in yourself." Quote. Ethan's face turned embarrassed. He didn't mean to speak his thoughts out loud like this. Soon, they passed the thunder clouds and volcano area and arrived at a completely different place. What the? Ethan's worldview completely shattered looking at the sight in front of him. A humongous mountain palace was suspended in the air. It was so big that Ethan actually could not see its peak as clouds were blocking the view. This is the headquarters of the Thunderfire Valley, and also a place where core members of our faction stay. Pausing a bit here, Laforge said, "Your friend Mike is going to live here from now on. His status is even higher than me now." Quote. What? Really? Quote. Laforge looked at Ethan's face, which only showed pure happiness for his friend, and was surprised, but then he sighed. This pair of friends, sigh, unfortunately, fate has stored something different for them. Quote. Indeed, fate has stored vastly different things for them. Yep. His status is higher than most of the core members. Now let's go, he is also waiting for you. Quote. Both of them flew upwards and entered the humongous floating mountain, which had not one but 3 big palaces and other big buildings. After entering the floating mass of wonder, they directly went towards the middle palace, which was also the biggest. As soon as we entered, an old man in his 40s approached us and said in a reprimanding tone, "Where are you going, Laforge? We still have a lot of work to do for today's ceremony. Many big figures will start arriving in an hour." Pausing a bit, he looked at Ethan and asked, "Who is this kid?" Quote. Laforge smiled coldly and spoke, "Elder Onik, I am just following orders of Valley Master. Now if you please excuses us, oh, and instead of wasting time chatting with us, you should start working because we still have a lot of work to do for today's ceremony." Saying this, he went past Elder Onik and went into one of the pathways leading deeper into the palace. Looking at their receding figures, Elder Onik snorted coldly and muttered under his breath, "I will definitely take revenge for my disciple, just you wait." Quote. Meanwhile, Ethan and Laforge arrived in front of a very big gate. Stopping in front of the gate, Laforge said to Ethan, "Your friend is inside and you only have an hour to talk." After that, he just walked back to the path they came from. Ethan stood in front of the gate, and before he could push it, the gate opened itself. Seeing this, he went inside. The room was very luxurious with lots of decorative things, but the most eye-catching thing was a boy walking to and fro with nervousness on his face. He wore the most luxurious clothes that Ethan had never seen before. "Hey bro, nice get up. You look like a royal prince, ha ha ha." Ethan laughed, seeing Mike, who came running towards Ethan. "Why yo bro, I didn't know something like this would happen. It seems like I became a holy son of Thunderfire Valley," said Mike while smiling awkwardly. "Whoa, that's such a cool thing, man. Looks like I have to hurry up and awaken an affinity, otherwise I will be left behind, ha ha ha. By the way, what is your affinity? I've been dying to know about it." Quote. "It's space element. Apparently it's a very rare affinity to have." Mike then looked down as he said, "Ethan, I asked the master to give me an affinity pill for you, but he said that the sources are weakened right now, and they need 500 years to recover before they can be used to make more affinity pill. Although 300 years have passed, they still need 200 years more to make pills again. I'm sorry bro." Ethan shook his and said with a confident smile, "What the hell are you saying, bro? I don't need an affinity pill or whatever, just focus on your training and cultivation, and don't look down on me, ha ha ha, because if you don't work hard, I'll soon catch up to you and even surpass you." Quote. Afterward, both of them talked to each other for an hour before a loud voice came inside along with the sound of the door opening. "Holy Son Mike, it's time to meet Valley Master and some of his esteemed friends." Quote. Ethan looked towards the door as a familiar figure came inside with a flattering smile. That person was none other than Elder Onik. Next chapter. The Tale of the Void Emperor. Chapter 9. Harsh Words, Shocking Discoveries, Sorka Galaxy. Next chapter. Chapter 9. Harsh Words, Shocking Discoveries, Sorka Galaxy. "Please, Holy Son, Valley Master told me to send you there as soon as possible. It's best that you go to the palace hall right now." Quote. Mike nodded and said to Ethan, "I'll be going now, meanwhile you can take a look around in the palace. I'll try to come back as soon as possible." Quote. Mike then left as only Ethan and Elder Onik were left in the big room. Elder Onik looked back and closed the door before looking straight at Ethan and spoke coldly, "So you are the friend of Holy Son." Sizing up Ethan, he spoke, "Nothing special, not an ounce of elemental aura, you are not even at Elemental Warrior Stage 1. Quote. Ethan didn't say anything and just stayed silent with an indifferent expression. Elder Onik sneered and said, "I think you already know the difference in status and ability between you and Holy Son. Furthermore, Valley Master is planning to make him the next Valley Master. So I think it's better that you don't meet with him from now on and waste his precious time. Holy Son needs to focus on training because many other factions' Holy Sons are already at Elemental Mage stage." Pausing here for a bit, he said coldly, "If you haven't realized until now, then let me tell you, you are a thorn in Holy Son's path of success. Just recently he requested Valley Master to arrange your place here. Humph, do you think trash like you can stay here?" Quote. Ethan was still silent, with his face laced with indifference, so Elder Onik could not read what he was thinking from his expression. All right, I'll come straight to the point. After today, Valley Master wants you to disappear from Holy Sun's life. At first we decided to directly send you out of the Thunder Fire Valley and arrange you at Skylark Pavilion. But Laforge spoke on your behalf and said that you can continue to live in Inner Thunder Fire Valley while we say to Holy Sun that you left the Thunder Fire Valley so you can train silently here while hoping to awaken affinity for thunder or fire element. Now go. Laforge is waiting outside. Quote. After that, Elder Onik directly left the room. Ethan stood there for a few minutes before a smile crept across his face. Looks like Mike life's is set now, I also have to hurry up. Single quote. Afterward, he left the room and arrived at the entrance where Laforge was waiting. Looking at Ethan, Laforge sighed and said, I tried but Mike is closely tied to the Thunder Fire Valley now so Valley Master is not willing to make any compromises on that. Quote. Ethan just shook his head with a smile and said, Don't worry, I'm just happy for Mike that his life is set now. Oh, and did he say anything about the orphanage? Quote. Laforge nodded and said, Yeah, he also requested to send money and other resources at the orphanage yesterday, which we sent them today morning. Quote. Good. Ethan nodded with a smile, then let's go, I still have to go to training zone. Quote. Laforge grabbed his shoulder and both of them flew away. While flying he asked Ethan, Don't you feel unfair? You might never catch up to him in your lifetime. Quote. Ethan laughed and said, No, I don't feel it's unfair because there's just this feeling, belief, and confidence inside me which is telling me that I am bound to become very strong. Quote. Laforge looked weirdly at Ethan before a term came into his mind, delusional. Perhaps he became delusional after hearing about his friend's situation. Single quote. I'll drop you at the training zone near the mountain palace you're currently staying in. Good luck, kiddo, I hope you became an elemental sorcerer soon. Quote. Meanwhile, numerous powerful auras were currently traveling towards the headquarters of Thunder Fire Valley. Some beings arrived on majestic-looking chariots, some arrived on powerful beasts like Hellfire Swan, Ice Phoenix, etc. On the big platform, Valley Master of the Thunder Fire Valley was standing together with Mike as he spoke. Welcome everyone, today I hereby announce that Mike Huberth will become the Holy Son of Thunder Fire Valley and my first disciple. Quote. The Pavilion Master of Skylark Pavilion spoke, Old friend, could this little guy be the one who awakened affinity with Space Element? Quote. Hearing this, other guests from different factions were shocked and started murmuring. Valley Master's smile was like blooming of chrysanthemum as he nodded and said, Indeed, who else is worthy of becoming this old man's disciple if not the bearer of Space Element? Ha 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 ha. Many people cursed in their mind, this old fogey is as shameless as ever. Quote. But the people here did not know that a pair of eyes were gazing at them as if they were ants and this pair was eyes was currently focused on Mike. In an unknown place, a castle was floating in the sky, even bigger than the core Thunder Fire Valley. In the castle, an old man in his 60s was playing some kind of game of board with a young man who was excluding an air of king. The old man peered his gaze outside of the window as his gaze went downward, which allowed him to see what was on the other side of the universe. Looks like a lad with space element was born in Sorka Galaxy, do you want to train him? Quote. The young man also looked outside and followed the gaze of the old man as he uttered one word while shaking his head, trash. Afterward, he looked at the old man and spoke, Master, don't pay attention to low-grade areas, they don't even have complete rules formed yet, none of the beings there have comprehended the intent of any element, and so many elements are missing there. Furthermore, we are not short of users of space elements and even time elements. If one can't comprehend the intent of the element they possess, they are no different than trash. Quote. The old man shook his head, as he thought, indeed, but sometimes geniuses are born in these low-level places, one such example is your own father. But the old man did not speak this out loud as he went back to focusing on the board game. Both Ethan and Laforge arrived at the training zone. This area had a lot of chambers, and each chamber had a sign on it, a sign of fire, and a sign of thunder. You can either train in fire chamber or thunder chamber, or in both, it's up to you. You can train as long as you want, but don't overdo it lest you die because these chambers are not the same as the second round of examination. Here you will get hurt, bleed and might even die, so start with level 1 intensity first and gradually increase it as your body gets stronger. Quote. Ethan nodded and his face showed an eager expression. Seeing this, Laforge shook his head. Remember, for your friend, you are currently not in Thunder Fire Valley, just train silently. I might come again after a year or two to give you an update on Holy Sun's situation. Quote. Ethan smiled and said, it's okay, just tell Mike that I will become very strong soon so he doesn't need to worry about me. Quote. Laforge nodded plainly and flew away. Ethan then arrived in front of an unoccupied fire chamber and entered. The chamber was around half of the size of Ethan's house. On the right side wall, there were 10 handles like switch facing upward, each handle had a number on it from 1 to 10. He then pulled down the handle which had 1 written on it and changes appeared in the middle of the chamber. Flames started to sprout in the middle, and the chamber's temperature started to turn very hot. He started walking and stood in the middle where flames were sprouting, and as soon as he stood there, the flames started to burn his skin, unlike what happened in the second round of examination where the lava pool only inflicted pain but no injuries. But this was different. The flames inflicted clear damage and pain to Ethan, but the intensity of pain was lower than lava pools, but that doesn't mean he can skip this level because he has to train his body here until these flames can no longer inflict injuries to him. After 30 minutes the flame automatically stopped and a bathtub appeared where he was standing. The bathtub was filled with light yellow water. Now what could this be? While wondering about what this water is about, Ethan sat inside the bathtub as his clothes were already burned because he forgot to take them off before. As soon as he entered the bathtub, a sizzling sound could be heard as his skin made contact with the light yellow water. Damn, this feels like countless ants are crawling inside my skin. But this water actually has the property of healing injuries. Ethan was shocked. He could see with his own eyes as his burned skin was peeled before a new one quickly came into existence under the effect of this water. With a grin, Ethan thought, now all I have to do is to spend my time here in training and working. Single quote. After 10 minutes of bathing, all his injuries were healing as he got up and wore the clothes which appeared in the box on the left side wall. Nice, ha ha ha, now it's time to check out Thunder Chamber. Single quote. A year passed just like this, as Ethan continued to work and train. Today, as usual, Ethan woke up early in the morning, did exercise, took a bath, and went to work. After arriving inside the mine, he started working with the same spirit as the first day, but after working for 2 hours, he started to feel dizzy. Shaking his head he continued to work, but after an hour, an intense headache started and he fainted. Nearby workers who were also elemental warriors, noticed this. One of them came towards Ethan, checked his pulse, and said to other people who were now gathered around Ethan, the lad is still alive, looks like he just fainted. Quote. Another warrior said, for the past year, this little brother has been doing this more intensely than us, while showing the same spirit every time he comes here. I wonder what happened to him today. Quote. Another warrior who was bald and had a big frame body spoke, yeah, furthermore he spends most of his time at training chambers, he only go back to sleep and eat. A month ago I even saw him hunting grade 1 monster in the forest with bare hands, which means he is already stage 2 elemental warrior. Quote. Hearing this, other warriors were shocked as one of them spoke with disbelief. You are saying that he already reached elemental warrior grade 2 in 1 year. Quote. The warrior who had a blad head nodded in affirmation. The one who checked the pulse of Ethan interrupted their talks as he said, we can talk about him later, but right now, we have to send him to medical hall, so who is going to send him there? The bald man said, I'll carry him there, you guys continue your work. Saying this, he picked up Ethan and walked out. Something different seems to be playing out in Ethan's mind right now. He could hear everything these men spoke, but he could not control his body or do anything. Currently, he was in a miraculous space. He could not see his own body, but he could see the surroundings of this space. It was gray all around except for one place. That place was in the middle of this gray space. That place was pitch black, that black area seems to be calling him, and looking at that black area felt like he was looking at himself. Ethan seemed to have opened his psychic realm, but he didn't know that his psychic realm was completely different than others. Some mutation might have occurred because of transmigration, but who knows? Next chapter. The Tale of the Void Emperor. Chapter 10. Psychic Realm, Shocking Discoveries. Next chapter. Chapter 10. Psychic Realm, Shocking Discoveries. Ethan then slowly moved towards the black area, although he could not see his own body here. When he willed it, his vision moved towards the black area. When he took a closer look, he could finally see what was in that black area. It was Black Whirlpool. Looking at the Black Whirlpool felt like looking at a part of him, just as he entered the area of Black Whirlpool. He woke up and heard a voice. Ah. You woke up. Wait a sec, I will call Mrs. Renila. A female voice rang out, seeing Ethan opening his eyes. Ethan's vision was still not clear, so he could not see the person who dashed out of the room just now. He rubbed his eyes for some time and looked around. Looks like someone carried me over here after I fainted in the mining cave. Ethan then started to think about his experience in the gray space and about that Black Whirlpool. So what was that gray space about? Could it be that I awakened an affinity? And that Black Whirlpool? It was very mysterious. Just then, the sound of footsteps was heard as Ethan saw two women, one in her 30s and another in her 40s, entering the room. The woman in her 40s sat on the main chair in the room and looked at Ethan before speaking. Hello, my name is Renila Atwa. You can call me Mrs. Renila. So how are you feeling? Are you having headaches or feeling any kind of discomfort in your body? Quote. Ethan shook his head while saying, no headaches, no discomfort, but. Ethan was hesitating whether he should tell her about the gray space and Black Whirlpool or not. But. Ethan decided to tell her about the gray space. There is something inside me. If I close my eyes and concentrate, I arrive in a gray colored space, so I wanted to ask if you know anything about it. Quote. Both women's mouth wide opened so much that Ethan was tempted to put his thing in them. Jokes aside, Ethan once again asked, seeing no reply from them, so do you know what is it? Both of them snapped out of their stupor as Mrs. Renila asked, Ethan, right? Are you telling the truth or, never mind, we will know it right away. Saying this, she turned to the woman in her 30s and said, yelling, get a glass of water and a wooden stick. Quote. Right away, ma'am. Saying this, she went out of the room to bring the things mentioned by Mrs. Renila. Afterward, Mrs. Renila turned to Ethan and said with a smile, if what you're saying is true, then you've most likely opened your psychic realm. Just 17, but you already opened your psychic realm. That's like a miracle, because even for elemental sorcerer, they need a decade or two to open it after starting out as elemental guider. Quote. Oh. Ethan wanted to ask about Black Whirlpool, but instead of directly asking, he asked in a roundabout way, by the way, Mrs. Renila, do something else exist in the gray space beside the gray atmosphere? Quote. Mrs. Renila nodded and said, that space is called Psychic Realm, and in it, psychic energy is produced which is colorless, but you can generally feel it with your conciseness when you enter into your psychic realm. The grayness is an impurity that you have to cleanse using your psychic energy. Each time you cleanse a part of your psychic realm, your psychic energy will get stronger. Quote. Ethan nodded, hearing it, and also confirmed that the Black Whirlpool inside him is not a common thing. Well, I'll check it out after getting home. Single quote. Right at this moment, Yelling arrived with a glass of water and a half-meter-long wooden stick with a thickness of a thumb. Mrs. Renila took the glass before turning to me and said, Ethan, now you have to concentrate and try to move the water out of the glass. Use your psychic energy. This energy is just like your hand. You can move it freely as if it's a part of your body. Just will with your mind to move the water out of the glass. Quote. Ethan looked at the water in the glass and willed to move the water out of the glass. On the first try, the water only moved and spilled out of the glass, but he could not let it float in the air, but on the second try, he succeeded. He felt like he captured the properties of water, after which when he tried, all the water in the glass came under his control, moved around according to his will. Seeing this, Mrs. Renila and Yelling were shocked. Mrs. Renila thought, such a fine control just after opening the psychic realm. A genius psychic energy user, but unfortunately he hasn't awakened an affinity for element, truly unfortunate. She could only sigh at Ethan's situation and hope that he awakens an affinity soon. Afterward, they told Ethan to control the wooden stick, which he did on the first try, making both women sigh in amazement again. Mrs. Renila then explained to Ethan, now that you have awakened psychic realm, you have to cleanse the gray impurity every day. Clearing the gray impurity will exhaust your mind and consume your psychic energy, so be sure to take good rest every day. Quote. Ethan nodded as he left the room after looking at the clock. Since it's just 11 a.m., I should mine black crystals. Single quote. After Ethan left the room, the ladies started gossiping. Mrs. Renila spoke to Yelling with an inquiring gaze, did you check his size while I was away? Quote. Yelling's cheeks turned a bit red before she shook her head, no I did not. Quote. Mrs. Renila also shook her head, I had to go away for some business, otherwise I would have checked it. Ethan arrived at the mining site. After entering, everyone asked what happened, to which he answered with a smile, it's nothing, I just opened my psychic realm, that's all. Quote. Hearing him, everyone rolled their eyes as one of them spoke, you just opened your psychic realm. Little brother, you're making it sound like it's not a big deal, ha ha ha. Quote. Others nodded as one of them asked with some doubt, why don't you show us some tricks using psychic energy? Quote. Ethan smiled indifferently as he gazed at a piece of black crystal, which after a second started to float and arrived in front of the one who just asked him, startling him. Ha 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 ha. Other warriors started to laugh. The bald man who carried him spoke, amazing little brother, this young and already opened the psychic realm, at least I've never seen someone young like you opening psychic realm before. Quote. Afterward, everyone chatted a bit before going back to mining. Asterisk clank. Asterisk clank. But no one noticed, not even Ethan himself, that while he was mining the black crystals, threads of black aura was getting sucked out from black crystals and was being absorbed by him. If he actually entered his psychic realm right now, then he would be able to see that the black whirlpool was attracting and absorbing those threads of black aura from black crystals. But since that aura was not visible to the naked eye, Ethan and others could not see it. After working till 3 p.m., Ethan arrived at training zone and entered the fire chamber. Upon entering, he took off his clothes, put them in the box on the left side wall, and pulling down level 3 handle. Immediately, intense fire started to burn in the middle of the chamber as Ethan walked there and stood in the middle. His skin was not burning but just getting red and occasionally cracking, and exactly the same phenomenon started here. Threads of red aura was getting absorbed by the whirlpool in his psychic realm. When Ethan went to the thunder chamber and started training after bathing in yellow water, the same phenomenon once again appeared. Threads of lightning-like aura was getting absorbed by the black whirlpool. Soon he also finished training in the thunder chamber and went back to his home. Arriving at home, he thought, now let's do some impurity cleansing, but I forgot to ask how to clean the gray impurity. Never mind, I should first check out that black whirlpool, as I could not check it before because I suddenly woke up. Single quote. Thinking about it, Ethan closed his eyes before his consciousness arrived in the psychic realm. But he was shocked when he took a look at the black whirlpool, which was now a colorful whirlpool with threads of blue, red, and black, which looked less dark compared to the darkness of the whirlpool, swimming around in it. What the heck is going on? Ethan was confused looking at the situation and started to think about how did this happen. First, I went to the mining area to mine black crystals, then I went to the training zone and refined my body in fire and thunder chambers. Suppose that those red, blue and black aura in the whirlpool represent aura of black crystal, fire elemental energy and thunder element energy. Ethan left the psychic realm as he wanted to try something. He opened his eyes and took out the bag from the cupboard which contained water crystals he extorted from the boss of Ryan's Inn. He took out a low-grade water crystal from the bag and laid on his bed before closing his eyes and once again entering his psychic realm. This time, he could clearly see a thread of blue aura coming inside his psychic realm from outside and got absorbed in the whirlpool. After a few minutes, the thread of aura stopped coming in. Now in his whirlpool were 4 kinds of aura moving around: black, red, blue, and light blue. Ethan then used his psychic energy and moved it towards the black whirlpool, and a shocking change occurred. The whirlpool's speed increased several folds as the colorful auras started to turn faint. It looked like the whirlpool was slowly digesting this aura before, but now its the speed of digesting increased. Suddenly an intense headache greeted Ethan as he came out from his psychic realm, but his face only showed an expression of excitement as he thought, what will happen now? Will I finally awaken affinity for elements? Not one but more after that whirlpool digests those auras. Damn. I can't wait. Single quote. Next chapter.